experiencing a resurgence of sales in the property market. Also, with the reopening of our project sales galleries, we are witnessing all viewing appointment slots being filled up very, very quickly. The property market is bouncing back fast, and I feel it's really a good time for you to pay closer attention to the new opportunities that might present itself. Orangetee's consumer webinar series is one of our key initiatives that empowers potential property buyers or sellers out there with the latest market news and trends right from the comfort of your home. Our carefully selected speakers in this series will be sharing with you key insights and latest research in the property market to help you make informed and prudent decisions on your future property plans. Our esteemed speaker for today is Dave Lee, Associate District Director with Orangetee and Thai Private Limited. Being in the real estate industry for more than 10 years, Dave's topmost focus is to help his clients live a better life. Unconventional as he is, Dave is always constantly learning and reinventing ways to assist his clients to resolve difficult issues, finding solutions and detailed investment methodology to multiply their wealth through creative planning. Being very well versed in CPF and all resale policies, he is also known to help many of his clients minimize their investment risk by leveraging on the most suitable financial solutions available, while also maximizing the profit potential of their investment. Dave is also the project IC for various high-profile projects, including Park Clementi's and Dairy Farm Residences. He is also leading a team of realtors who are high achievers, and his motto in life is, "I may not be the best or the richest, but I promise to serve with integrity." Dave's topic for today is 3 common mistakes most property owners make and why your property is more than just a home. He'll be sharing with you how to use CPF for property purchase, how using CPF for property purchase may deplete your retirement savings, how can buyers upgrade to property with minimal cash, and also the difference between total debt servicing ratio and mortgage servicing ratio. So very interesting topics. I'm sure a lot of our listeners may be interested to know more. A reminder for all listeners tuning in, if you have any questions pertaining to the talk or the property market in general, at any point during the sessions, all you have to do is click on the Q&A option at the bottom of the screen and type in your questions. And we will answer your questions at the end of the session. I'm sure all of you are excited to hear Dave's presentation, so without further delay, Dave, over to you.
Hello, hi everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for taking your time off Father's Day as well. Happy Father's Day to all of you out there. I hope all of you can see me. So what color am I wearing, Ramesh? Can you see me clearly now?
Looks black.
Okay, good. That means all of you can see me. So today's topic is very important. What I'm going to share with all of you out there is common mistakes made by property owners. You may be a property owner yourself or an aspiring home buyer in the market looking for a property. So this topic today, I'll be touching on the why and how you should use your CPF wisely. So let me proceed with the market movement for the last 2 years. So I'll be sharing with you HDB market outlook, the first one. And the second one, I'll be sharing on the overall HDB resale price. And number 3, how CPF accrued interest would affect your property cash proceeds when you decide to sell your property. And of course, what is the right way to do after knowing the above 3 things? And last but not least, I'll be sharing on mortgage servicing ratio versus total debt servicing ratio. So first, let's touch on HDB price trend. I'm gonna be very quick on these first few slides. Okay, so HDB and private price index cycle was in tandem since 1993 all the way to 2017, as seen from the chart on your left. And of course, HDB prices start to stagnate after 2015. And of course, property prices picked up in 2017 due to certain reasons. And actually, what happened in 2017? Can all of you really recall what happened in 2017 that actually caused all this to happen in the HDB and private property price change? In 2017, our minister, Mr. Lawrence Wong, actually said in the parliament, only 4% of flats are SIRS since 1995. And of course, SIRS are only offered to sites with high redevelopment potentials. And as the lease runs down towards the tail end, flat prices will come down. So this statement actually caused a national hoo-ha because, as we all know, most of the Singaporeans actually live in HDB in Singapore. So let's take a look at the key event twist and turn since 2017. And of course, after the announcement of no SIRS are unlikely, okay, we have also identified this, which I've highlighted in the red box, with the new Home Improvement Program 2 roll out for aging units at the 60 to 70 years mark. This is very important for all HDB owners to know as well. The reason is very simple. If the government have this initiative, it is safe to say that all the way from now to the next 20 or even 30 years, no sites are actually identified for SIRS, right? And of course, this is the SLA balance table as illustrated in the Straits Times graphic. Assume a HDB 5-room flat bought for 860,000 in 2017. So this chart clearly illustrates how prices will fall as the lease runs down. And of course, towards the tail end, CPF can only be used if the age of the tenure of the property, the balance lease of the property, and your age can reach 95 years old. And of course, when there is 20 years left of lease, no loans whatsoever. Everything has to be paid in full cash. And of course, various newspaper articles after his announcement also had this debate. Is HDB losing their values? And of course, there's another report over here. HDB flats are public housing, right? So it needs to serve the needs of the housing demand first, right? So these are many statements from our government and various newspaper articles that actually point towards all these home problems that home owners actually face, all right? And in this year, whatever the government says come true. In Geylang Lorong 3, houses to be returned to the states. This news article was posted 3 years ago, but it wasn't much publicized. And of course, it also states 191 private terrace houses will see their 60 years lease runs out. All right, and of course, it will return to the state. And last but not least, our minister, Mr. Lawrence Wong, he's just telling us the truth, right? So what I'll be sharing with you next is, can your HDB price appreciate further? So how HDB prices actually got affected over time? Let's take a look. There was a major cooling measures for HDB or even BTO back in 2013. And this is the date, 12th of January. This is the date that you must take note of. HDB actually implemented a mortgage servicing ratio at 30% of gross monthly income for the servicing of mortgage loan. So most owners who actually did not have the intention to sell after the announcement assume that actually price are not affected. And many homeowners presume HDB price remain resilient over the years, even after the implementation of MSR. But however, that's not true. What happened next, right, scares even my mom. My mom asked me, boy, should I sell my HDB? And after some calculation, I told her, at your age, I think it's best for you to hold on to your HDB. And astonishingly, HDB price index actually indicated over at the HDB website that the price actually declined for 28 quarters straight, which is equivalent to 7 years. So HDB prices has been depreciating for the past 7 years. So most owners do not know this, right? So I hope this article will help you in some ways, because next I'll be showing you how it actually affect the HDB price index over estates in Singapore. And of course, as you can see, what I'm showing you now is the non-mature estate price index of HDB. And of course, we can see prices start to depreciate, of course, as high as 5.9% in Jurong East, right, over here. I have circled over there. So take a look, even non-mature estates are affected. So if non-mature estates are affected, let me show you the mature estate. And this is the price index of mature estate. And we can see the red boxes. HDB prices are deeply affected. It's very, very affected by all these policies and measures that the government actually implemented, right? So if you are staying somewhere in Kallang Whampoa, you could see price actually change to negative 10.3% as illustrated in the table. And of course, all these are thanks to Orangetee and Thai research team who has worked tirelessly to get us all the details and the numbers shown to you today, right? And next, I will show you a tale of two different generations. And of course, for some of the viewers here who are in their early 30s, of course, your parents could have bought a HDB in 2005 as illustrated here. So after buying and selling to the second owner, they actually made a profit of 100,000 approximate. And from 2009, the second owner sold to the third owner. And indeed, the owner still made a profit of 83,000. So this flat 663C in Jurong West is actually a 20 years old flat, right? A unit in Jurong. It's right beside the MRT. And we take a look at the fourth buyer that went in, the fourth buyer, right? So let's take a look at the fourth buyer. Let's do an analysis, all right? As we all know, when you buy a HDB, you need to live there for 5 years before you can sell off your HDB. And let's take a look at the market price now, okay, over here. They bought for 478,000 and today the market price is 436,000 if they choose to sell. So even before reaching the MOP, they are already losing about 41,000. So that is very, very scary for a lot of HDB owners out there, right? So if you belong to this category, fear not, because I'll be sharing with you more later. And of course, let's take a look at 1728 Edgedale Plain. This is in Punggol, one of the newer towns, right? So are newer towns affected? Everybody must be thinking, yeah, Punggol is going to hold their price very well. Let's take a look at this. For this unit, they have already completed their MOP. And of course, price start to depreciate 79,000 as illustrated. And of course, this unit 1404, I hope it's not your unit over there. There is a possible transaction and we can see the market value is negative 58,000. So what happened when you make a negative sale for HDB? I will share with you in the later few slides, right? So of course, with the new CPF usage rules for home buyers, many owners actually worry that an older HDB unit that they are holding is an depreciating asset. All right. So as this write-up from the Straits Times in 2018, okay, this lady called Madam Chia, who declined to give a full name due to PDPA, right? She lowered her asking price to 320,000, but there was no takers. So she finally sold her flat in February 2019. So guess how much she sold her flat for? Let's see. She actually sold her flat for 288,000, making a negative of 52,000 difference from her asking price. And with that, there are many questions asked. We even have a column here, Ask Straits Times, and I will share with you what are the questions asked. When should one sell an older HDB flat? And the answer is, ideally the best time is before the flat exceeds 40 years, as depreciation tends to steepen after that. And of course, this is partly because restriction on CPF usage kicks in when the remaining lease is less than 60 years. So you must be thinking, homeowners, are caught by this situation. But let me tell you, even property agents are caught off guard. In this very news article, this couple, the We couple, they are property agents, right? So what really happened? This is their feedback when they are trying to sell the beautiful renovated unit in Telok Blangah Crescent, right? Those people who called about the unit asked about the balance lease first, right? The flat age has become a main concern after the announcement from our minister, Mr. Lawrence Wong, right? So these are things that happen to even property agents, but they have made their choice afterwards. What did they do? Okay, they intend to sell, and of course they want to buy the next property, and they do not want to own another HDB resale flat because the aging lease problem will crop up according to them. So what is the next strategy? A condo with a fresh lease, right, will actually help them hold a price better, right? And of course, having said that, for instance, a 30-year-old looking to buy a 55-year-old HDB unit, so resale, and we can see just now I have spoken to you, 30 years old plus the remaining lease is 85. It has yet to reach the magic number to allow you to fully utilize your CPF for purchase, which is 95. For that, for some HDB owners, you can contact any of our OTT agents. They will be there to assist you and check what is your potential buyer's age, right? And next, I'll be sharing with you a topic that actually affected a lot of my sellers or even my buyers. But in today's market, it is important to know what is CPF usage for, right? And I'll share with you. So let's assume everybody start with a 4,000 salary, no increment, no reduction, all right? So we will be working from the age of 25 years old all the way to 65 years old. With that, we'll be working for 40 years straight. And retiring at the age of 65, we would have accumulated 341,000 from our contribution to CPF, right? And what really happened is we also will have an interest from the government of 2.5% per annum, all right? So by adding these two sums together, for retirement, we should have 650,000 for retirement. So just by leaving our funds there untouched in our CPF OA account, the funds would have almost doubled, right? So according to many people who actually want to understand about CPF retirement, it is this kind of amount that the government is looking at, right? For you to retire, it's supposed to CPF is supposed to help you with your retirement. So, but that's not the case for most Singaporeans, because for whatever property purchase, be it CPF, be it you use CPF for your HDB or private, right? So what really will happen? So before purchasing and using your CPF, okay, what I'm showing you now, you have to ask yourself, how many of you actually read this fine print from the CPF website before you use your CPF for purchase? All right. And I want you to take a look at the next one. Using your CPF, okay, I'm going to read this out to you, okay. Using your CPF ordinary account savings to finance your HDB flat is an alternative to using cash. However, you should not use all your CPF OA savings to finance your HDB flat. And why? CPF is essentially for your retirement. The more you use for your property, the less you may have for retirement. It's the truth. I'm sure most of us don't read this article before we proceed to purchase and use our CPF, right? So this is an example of the CPF statement from my client. As we can see here, the principal amount they used was about 48,000, and with interest over here about 17,000. When they sell their flat, they need to, despite using only 48,000, they need to return 66,000. All right. Now I'm going to show you the next example by using 70,000. Right. Oops. By using 70,000. What is the accrued interest? Accrued interest is about 27,000. So after selling their property, this is the amount that needs to be top up back to the account, right? So to let you understand the whole scenario better, I have done this, all right? This simple chart to illustrate to you out there what will happen in the long run. So assumingly everybody bought a direct from HDB BTO at 300,000. So at its peak during the MOP years, usually at its peak we can sell for a good profit margin. And of course, 10 years, the profit margin is still there, still good. But when the flat starts to hit 15, 20 years, as illustrated according to SLA's bala table, prices start to depreciate. But at the same time, most property owners do use the CPF to fund for the HDB. And what happened? At the 2.5% CPF compounded interest per annum will be calculated this way. By using 150,000 CPF, all right? If you decided to sell your HDB today, 35 years later, if the value is at 290K, you are making a negative loss of almost 65K of your CPF money, right? So if I were to put this money in to show you, it clearly shows you one thing. The earlier you sell your HDB, the more funds you can cash out and plan for your next purchase. The later you sell your HDB, you couldn't cash out as much as when you are reaching your MOP of 5 years or even 10 and 15 years, right? So what happened next? This portion over here, all right, is what we call the negative 65,000, is what we call the CPF negative sale. Meaning after you sell your flat at 290,000, CPF do not require you to top up the 65,000 you lost, right? It is your money, but you do not need to top up unless you have enough cash to top up whatever is being lost, right? But no owners will put 65,000 back into their CPF for this instance, right? So in another way, instead of the CPF board guaranteeing a 2.5% interest return each year, the responsibility now has been shifted to you as a home buyer or even a property home owner now, right? So I have also another scenario, interestingly. I've also heard people telling me, Dave, I want to fully pay off my HDB. I want to pay full cash, full cash. When they tell me full cash, I always ask them, does it include your CPF? They said, yeah, I have a lot of money in my CPF. I got almost 600,000. I decided to use all my CPF to fully pay for my property. I said, okay, at 550,000, fully pay up with your CPF, right? At the age of 65, when my owner decide to sell, I asked them, okay, what is the break-even price? Are you curious what is the break-even price, right? Because CPF compound interest still keep rolling and compounded over the years. From the day you fully pay with your CPF to the day you decide to sell. As long as one day you are the owner of the HDB unit, right, or any unit, CPF compounded interest keeps rolling. And of course, the CPF compounded interest over years for the next 20 years is about 351,000 based on 550,000 use, right? So my question to them is, after 20 years, you and your spouse have accumulated so much accrued interest, right? And you wanted to downsize a 5-room HDB to a 3-room flat with a remaining lease of 70 years because you have used up the initial years yourself, all right? So in order to break even, we need to sell the property at 900,000 approximate in order for you to cash out your initial HDB use, your CPF use, as well as the accrued interest that you are supposed to have in your ordinary account. So next, is it really possible to sell off a 30-year-old flat above 900,000? And that is the question I ask my sellers before we proceed to purchase. Are you sure you want to finish using all your CPF like that? The moment you are buying, it's the moment you must think whether is this your last unit, or will you have any intention of right sizing or upgrading, right? So that's what I explain to my sellers. And of course, what is the government's vision? Okay, HDB's vision is to actually provide more affordable homes. BTO flats with brand new 99 years lease will be going for much lower price. Imagine today your next generation or the generation after next, right? With this government initiative, right? They are actually looking to build more houses, right? Let's take a look at the numbers. Even this year with the COVID-19 pandemic, although construction and the HDB new sale are postponed, but it doesn't mean that they are not selling. They are not launching any, right? Let's take a look what has been launched for the past few years. Let's roll back 5 years ago. The projected number each year, averagely about 17,000. So what have the government actually achieved in terms of actual numbers, right? 15,000, 18, 17,000, 15,000, 14,006. And this year they projected to launch about 16 to 17,000 HDB flats as well. So more Singaporeans actually are tilted towards buying a BTO because it is more affordable to them as well, right? But of course, do not expect a BTO to be as cheap as before, as we all know construction costs, inflations are making even BTOs rising, right? In their price. In the past, I remember a 4-room flat could be about 180,000. I can get a 4-room flat, and now I think minimally it's 300,000 for a BTO unit. Wow, that's inflation. And next, 3 common mistakes made by most property owners. Okay, of course, after sharing with you so much, I'm not stopping you to use your CPF for purchase. It is only the right thing to do. Am I right? Not everybody have the cash to use all this. And of course, instead, we should learn how to use our CPF correctly so that you can make the best out of the CPF system. Right? So of course, 3 common mistakes most property owners make, right? They are putting their funds in a property that is not appreciating by at least 2.5%. They are not appreciating by 2.5% each year. So meaning to say, if your CPF funds are guaranteed a 2.5% appreciation, right? You must choose to put your money in a property that will appreciate more than 2.5%, right? And of course, for some owners, they're holding on to property for too long will actually thin their cash when they sell their property, because CPF accrued interest keep rising. When you sell, you could cash out lesser. And of course, not knowing the right way to let their CPF work harder for them, and of course, it let them become a liability to them when they turn old. And of course, all these are mistakes, but just like this pencil, there's an eraser. Today, I will share with you how I actually corrected some of my clients' mistakes in the past. All right. So what is the right way? So let me share with you. This is a case study I have shared previously with our Orangetee and Thai agents. A case study of Dennis and Kelly. They are my friends. As you can see from the pictures, they're actually arguing. They're always arguing, right? Whether to sell or not, right? Can they afford a condo after selling? And of course, the pictures there are not Kelly and Dennis, because due to PDPA reason, I won't be showing you their face. And of course, another question is, must we sell first? Must we sell first, right? Should we invest in a second property because they have some savings from their existing savings plans or even their current ordinary account, right? So this is also another debate that the two of them actually had argument. So are they able to sell one, buy two? Wow, this topic I actually spoke to them for, I think I remember it was a Friday night. I spoke to them from 9 p.m. all the way to about 1 a.m., right? Trying to tell them, what is it about with sell one and buy two? How can they achieve it, right? Without paying ABSD, right? Which I will be sharing with you in a while. And of course, the burning question also they asked me is, should we buy an EC or a condominium, right? And of course, time for property wealth planning. And of course, I'm sure many of you have seen advertisements like this on various social media platforms, asking some questions, how to upgrade to EC private or even two without touching your own savings, right? Have you reserved funds and yet upgrade to a better lifestyle for your family? And today, I will unlock the myth for you, right? I will make the impossible to the impossible by sharing these few simple steps with you. And here's their profile. Dennis and Kelly, both Singaporean, age 35 and 32 respectively. Their monthly income for Dennis is 7,500, or Kelly is 6,000. However, Dennis has a monthly obligation of 1,001 because he drives a car, and he has a balance ordinary account of 48,000, and Kelly has 35,000 in her CPF ordinary account. So what are the other assets they have, right? Apart from the CPF illustrated here, they have savings. After working very hard and doing some investment, they actually have a savings of 250,000. So this is one of the reasons they asked me, it's enough for down payment what? Wow, I remember that's the exact tone Kelly used. We can buy another additional property what? Yeah, okay. I said, yes, it's enough for a down payment. Then I show her this, all right? Keep the HDB and buy a private property. So how does it work? With a cash savings on hand, 250,000 and current CPF ordinary account of 83,000, okay, what can they afford if they decide to keep their HDB and buy a second property? Okay, as we can see here, the maximum property value here actually is only 545,000. Why is this so strange, right? Because let's take a look. 250,000 make up 55% of the down payment because it's the second property, all right? And they are only eligible for a loan of 45% for the second purchase because it has yet to fully pay up the HDB. And this would be the 45% balance loan required. Why I did not touch the CPF portion is very simple. Because it's a second property, they have to pay a higher tier of ABSD. So not only they need to pay a buyer's stamp duty, they need to pay a ABSD as well, which makes up to about 62,000. So basically, if you are going for a second property without having enough savings or cash, it is almost very tough to buy a second property in this market. Why? Right? And of course, you are subject to LTV loan of 45%, no with ABSD of 12%. And why am I saying not much choice? Because there are only a tiny handful of condos in Singapore that's priced below 500,000, right? If you go to any property portal website, you search for private that is below 500,000, highly likely you'll be buying shoebox unit, Mickey Mouse units, small units that tenants may not even want to rent. So there are risks in buying a shoebox unit in today's market as well, right? And of course, there are not a lot of units that are priced below 500,000. And of course, with the maximum value of the max value of the private property purchase changes if they fully pay up their existing HDB loan, as I have mentioned previously as well, right? So that's the first option. So second option, I share with them, let's sell and buy a condo. So this time round, with the same savings, right? After selling their HDB, the OA have an additional 300,000, and the cash proceeds from the sale of the HDB is 135,000. And of course, this is their previous current ordinary account. All right. So they decided to sell their HDB and use all funds to buy a 4-bedroom premium at Park Clementi's, because they went in to the show flat. They look at the 4-bedroom premium. They love it. They super love the layout. Yeah, it suits it is very suited to them, their lifestyle. So they decided, hey, why not I put all my cash in and my CPF, see how it goes. Then I share with them once again, with the same income, all right? This time round, after selling the HDB, the maximum property value actually went up to 2.25 million that they can purchase. And because they are dumping all their cash savings and CPF, they only need to take a 69% loan, which is about 1.55 million. And after dumping all the cash and CPF, right, they can comfortably purchase a unit of 2.25 million indeed, all right? However, of course, at 2.25, they have plenty of housing choice. And this time around, if you realize they need not have to pay a 12% EBST. However, I actually advise them to conserve some funds to tie them through unforeseen circumstances. This is very important for all homeowners out there. If you're looking to buy a private property, the reason is very simple. Just remember, back in January, for the Chinese, what are we doing? We are actually preparing ourselves for Chinese New Year. We are doing our preparation. We're going to Chinatown. We are queuing up to buy all our Chinese New Year goodies. Who would have imagined that a COVID-19 pandemic will strike us, right? Nobody would imagine that. So I'm glad, right? I managed to speak to this couple before this current pandemic, right? And next, I share with them option 3. Sell HDB, buy private condo without using cash on hand. I'm sure you have seen many advertisements how to upgrade to condo without using your cash on hand. Yes, it can be done, right? Let's take a look. Dennis and Kelly, once again, this is the same exact amount that they have after selling the HDB, right? And this time round, okay, how can they upgrade without touching the cash on hands? It's very simple. Basically, we're not using their savings. Or what can they still buy? Let's take a look, right? If they decide to keep some cash, especially their savings from their own bank account, they can still purchase a property value of up to 1.8 million, which still offers plenty of choice in today's market, island-wide, all right? And of course, to fully leverage on the 75% loan, right? This time around, the loan will be 1.37 million, I'm sorry. So the down payment required, as we can see, from 693,000 reduced to 456,000. So it reduced significantly by 250,000, right? And what this actually helped them achieve, right? They actually preserve 250,000, right? In case another second wave of COVID-19 hits us, touch wood, another financial crisis, we never know. Because we usually take things for granted. Like I mentioned, nobody expects this to happen during Chinese New Year, when we are all happily preparing to go for house visit and things like that, right? And next, this is what Kelly can buy EC. What? Yeah, the tone that I told you that she spoke to me about, right? So this time round, they told me, all right, if I buy EC, I use up all my cash lah. Okay, can. Take a look at this. The maximum property value that they are able to purchase reduces from 2.25 million to 1.6 million. Why is this so? Remember just now, after using this for private purchase, they can actually purchase up to 2.25 million. But why now it's only 1.6 million? Right, I'll be sharing with you why, okay? And of course, loan affordability is based on MSR, mortgage servicing ratio. Choice at 1.6 million, there are still plenty of choices for ECs in the market. And of course, buying EC, you do not have a 12% EBST. And of course, you have to check your resale eligibility and resale levy. And with that, there's also approximately 40,000 levy, subject to the kind of flats you actually have, right, or own. And next, I will be sharing with them what they want to achieve. They argue a lot. We spoke for 4 hours at their place, sell one and buy 2 private condominium, all right? This is their dream, right? To buy 1 unit in Park Clementi's, for lifestyle, and of course, for dairy farm residences as well. These are the 2 projects that they shortlisted, right? Let's take a look. Can this be done? Yes, it can be done. And this is how it looked, right? So based on Danny's own affordability, we can see his maximum property amount based on his salary and $1,001 debt obligation for his car. His maximum property amount that he can go up to is 1.09 million. And the max loan, okay, we see is about 757,000, 75%. And for Kelly, same. She can purchase a property amount of up to $1 million. And this time round, the maximum loan granted to her is a lot more. The reason is very simple, because she don't have any debts, right? No debts obligation. And that's the reason why the bank actually lend Kelly a higher amount, right? So this is how I actually allocate their funds, their savings to 2 properties, right? So I'm going to show you next Danny's one first. So the maximum property value at this price, at this amount, what Dennis did was this. You have a choice to choose between a new launch or a resale. For his case, because for certain reasons, the wife is going to give birth soon and things like that. So he needed a place to stay urgently. So he decided to go for a new launch, a not too old property, right? He bought a resale at 1.009 million, about there. So once again, leverage on the 75% loan, down payment, 25% stamp duty. Look at the significant reduce in stamp duty, because there are no APST this time around, right? And for Kelly, she decided to go for an investment property, a new launch, right? So she actually bought a 2-bedder, a loan 75%, down payment 25% of 267,000. Stamp duties is about 27,000 thereabout, right? So what actually have I helped them achieve? Okay, they actually sold their HDB and purchased not 1 but 2 properties separately under different names, right? And of course, one of the property can be considered as an investment property, where there should be a rental income when the unit TOP, which we would also see a good capital appreciation once the project actually TOP, right? And of course, a huge savings on ABSD for 2 properties, because they need not have to pay for any ABSD for this case. And this is the best takeaway for them. And this is the happiest thing that I felt I have helped them throughout their journey. A cash savings of 190,000. This time round, although I have many funds up there to use, as I've showed you, have 250,000 cash savings. I did not use all, because I told them after buying 2 properties, you should have some funds in your account to help you tide through difficult periods, right? So what you need to know, there are various options of upgrading from HDB to a private condominium or even an EC. And there are also many considerations to take note of. So I have also shared with you, because Kelly and Dennis have a family plan. One of the spouse, which is Kelly, intend to take an extended non-paid leave from their career to care for the children, right? And of course, some of you may have situation where you face a job loss in this current situation. And of course, it is also good to know where your financial standings is in this current time in 2020, right? And next, I will share with you a case study of a private owner. His name is Mr. Goh. I call them the Goh family. Very nice, always smiling to me, buying me a lot of Chinese New Year goodies when I visit them. So he's looking to cash out his CPF from his property before he reaches 55 years old. But he's not sure if he should sell his current home. Reason is very simple. When I enter his home, I actually love his unit very much. He loved his unit so much because he spent about 80,000 to renovate his unit. And every time I step into his house, I feel like, wow, I'm in resort, that resort kind of feeling. So he's unsure if he should buy a HDB or private property after selling his current private property. So what did I advise him next? All right, so a little bit of his profile. He actually bought a unit called Terrace in Serangoon back in 2011. During launch. All right, so today is 2020. Right? 10 years, 9 years. Yeah, in fact 9 years. Let's take a look. Okay, when he bought during launch, the average PSF is about 1,000 PSF. And of course, the minimum PSF is about 961. All right. As we all know, during TOP, usually we see the first appreciation. So in February 2015, we see actually PSF reaches about 1,004, right? Average 1,004. So what happened after 2015? If you realize prices actually stay stagnant or depreciate from time to time. Right? So it doesn't mean that when you want to sell a property, you must know when to sell your property. So for the Goh family, he actually, this is Goh. For the Goh family, actually, as you can see, eventually sold at the 1st of October, I remember, right? So by doing this, by holding on for so long and selling at this point, actually, did my owner make a lot of money? Yes, my owner did make money. Okay, eventually he sold the Raze, purchased dairy farm residences, okay, a 4-bedroom. And of course, why did he decide to put his money in this development in a private property instead? Because I told him, Mr. Goh, actually, you haven't reached 65 years old. Basically, you are still working, right? 55 years old is the magic number that the government turn your ordinary account to a retirement account, all right? But you are nowhere near your retirement age. So if you are putting your hard-earned CPF money in a HDB, so next time when you want to sell, how? So he said, oh yeah, makes sense, right? So he exited his current property before the cash proceeds got thinner. And of course, I won't be showing you the unit number due to PDPA reason, right? He purchased at about 868 PSF and eventually sold at 995 PSF. If today, my owner decide to sell at 2014 at its peak at 1,004 PSF, right? Average 1,004. I'm sure his profit margin would have been 300,000 XX rather than 200 over 1,000 XX, right? So I urge the property owners out there to also check if your property prices are stagnant, right? Because if you don't do your check, you will never know whether your property prices actually indeed go stagnant already or not, right? So next, my very last thing to share, TDSR versus MSR. I did this in a very simple comparison. So a max loan based on $10,000 in combined income for most Singaporean families out there. So TDSR versus MSR, right? So based on TDSR, when we go for a banking institute to check our eligibility, right? So today, if based on 10,000, you would be able to get a loan of 1.3 million, 1.33 million a loan. So that will make up 75% of your purchase. But today, with the same 10K income, you decide to go for a HDB resale, bank loan, or AC purchase, look at the amount. It is reduced by almost half, right? Because any loans that you are trying to get from the banking institute, you are actually pegged with mortgage servicing ratio of 30%. And for TDSR, is 60% and MSR is 30%. And that makes it almost half of what you are eligible for in terms of loan. So actually most can afford private condos without knowing the difference between TDSR and MSR. Why? Reason is very, very simple. Because today, remember, roll back the years when you and your fiance or your wife apply for a BTO flat. What is the first thing that you are required to do? You are required to do a loan of HDB loan, HLE. So when you're taking a HLE to buy anything that is related to HDB, you are actually pegged by MSR and not TDSR. So for example, if you have a HDB loan of 500,000, right? And today, if you decide to go for a private purchase instead, you can loan up to $1 million. So many of them don't know. They really don't know, because the first instinct is to go to HDB website, apply for HDB loan, right? So without even knowing your true affordability, many would have already assumed, cannot lah, 500,000, that's the max. How can I afford a condo at 1 million or even 900,000? You can, right? Many just don't know. And today, I hope by sharing this simple graph, simple chart with you, simple findings, for those who are interested to upgrade to a private condo, please do not hesitate to call any of our OTT agents, all right? And next, Singapore's income has been rising over the years. And of course, more move to private properties over the years. As we can see, HDB ownership actually declined all the way to 2017. And this is one big factors as well. Median marriage age rising in Singapore. More people are marrying later, seriously. So let's see, if you marry at 30 years old, takes you 3 years for the BTO to build after applying, right? You need to stay there for 5 years and reach your MOP. Am I right? So after that, you decide to sell and then you purchase a private property and you need to wait 3 years for the private condo to be built. So at what age? Okay, at 41 years old, you collect your first condo key. So that's what most young Singaporeans don't want now, right? Because couples that marry later, okay, their income are actually more stable. And with that, more of the young couples these days opt to go for private residential because there are no MOP 5 years of waiting before they decide they would like to restructure their property portfolio and move on to their next purchase, right? And as we can see after the implementation of MSR over here, mortgage servicing ratio, and then of course we see a trend, private moving up, and we actually see HDB price decline here, right? So of course, HDB and private price index actually get a widening as more buyers shifted towards private property because it's able to hold their hard-earned CPF better as well, right? And next, in 2019 itself, actually new home sale recorded 10,000 units more. Why is this so? Because the sale 15% up thanks to HDB upgraders. Because these days, people are more savvy. They start to Google. They ask Google, and then they visit websites. They probably have heard talks and seminars and webinars like mine today. And they realize the importance of upgrading, right? Not only just for themselves, it's to protect themselves by upgrading, okay? So let's take a look at the HDB upgraders reaching MOP. Okay, we are past 2018, 2019, right? And of course, if you are still there, you still have a chance to sell your property and cash out more cash proceeds, right? And of course, this year is 2020. For the next 3 years, in fact, we have a lot of HDB upgraders, right? We have a lot of upgraders in the market. Take a look at the numbers here, all right? A small town in Jurong East, right? And even Jurong West will reach about 32,000. So we look at the island-wide from here. Easily, we have about 100,000. We have about 100,000 HDB upgraders in the market, eligible to put their money in a private property in today's market. And of course, how we should look at a property overall. The way I look at it, a property is more than just a home. Okay, your property is not just a roof over your head. We look at property as number one, a savings account. Right? Your own home can also be a bank, a savings account for you. When you are paying the mortgage monthly, it's actually a kind of forced savings. Okay? And number two, it's an investment vehicle. Properties, you know, that are actually bought and invested usually appreciate and grow in value over time, especially new home. And of course, if you have also missed what our previous webinar by our head of research, Ms. Christine Sun, she actually shared with almost all of you, buyers that bought during crisis don't really make losses. Very, very few owners make losses for properties bought during crisis. Okay, and of course, number three, property is a retirement fund. Okay, because majority of Singaporeans depend on CPF for retirement, and most of us, up to 70 to 90% of us, actually our CPF are locked in a property. Okay, so it will be wise to put your CPF in a property that is appreciating more than 2.5%. Okay, and so in summary, if you don't protect your assets, nobody will, because the ball game has been shifted to you. Okay, by using your CPF, the whole ball game has been shifted to you. Okay, it is essential to look at our property portfolio to ensure that the value of our property is growing faster than the accumulated accrued interest. Okay, and for some of you who have told me, yeah, it's okay lah, I already planned for my retirement funds already. Yeah, I understand. You have bought various investment from anywhere, everywhere. You actually have your own retirement plans. Yes, I understand. I fully respect that. However, by doing that, even with already retirement plan set by yourself, you are actually forfeiting the guaranteed 2.5% interest that you should have earned. That should be yours, right? You are actually turning your assets into a liability because it can never be liquidated. You choose to give up your 2.5% interest over years, right? And next, to be clear, simply upgrading to private condominium is not just the end game. You should actually plan for your entire property wealth journey to the day you decide to right size and downgrade for retirement. Okay, and of course, to me, this is the most important thing. Planning for your finances for unforeseen circumstances is super important. Of course, to buy, we must also think about selling at the same time. Okay, so why is it time to take action? One, inevitable factors. I'm sure most of you know this black guy here. Okay, so at 30 years old, if you decide to take a loan, time is money. Why to me time is money? Because loan tenure will get shorter as you age. As we can see here, at 30 years old, the maximum bank loan you can get is about this amount, about 1 million, based on $8,000 income. So throughout, I'll be using $8,000 income. At 35 years old, we are still very safe. And if you realize the first drop is at 40 years old, you drop about 100,000. So when you reach about 45,000, what happened to the max bank loan that you can get? It dips to 827,000, with all that, actually your property purchase gets smaller and smaller as years goes by. That means the younger you start, you have a better head start also compared to if you start later. Okay? So what happened to people after 45 years old? I'm sure most of you are curious to find out, right? I'll be sharing with you. At 50 years old, the maximum loan reduced significantly once again. Okay? At 55 years old, worse, about 500,000. And the loan tenure is 10 years. And if my monthly mortgage that I can actually afford is 4,008, the maximum property purchase I can buy is 647. Tell me, in the next 10, 15, 20 years, do you think property prices will be 647,000? I think no. No way, right? In the next 10, 15 years, prices will increase because it has been proven over the years, right? And land costs are getting more and more expensive. Each land parcels sold by the government getting higher and higher. So you have to plan for your purchase carefully, right? And of course, at 60 years old, our bank loan is about 263,000. And when you reach the magic retirement number, 65, you are not eligible for any loan anymore, right? So with that, I thank you for attending today's webinar. If you are interested to find out how you can leverage on your existing property to build your wealth and safeguard your asset for you and your family's future, please contact any of the OTT agents that invited you today for the webinar for a non-obligatory consultation to find out about your options. With that, thank you. Stay safe. Ramesh, back to you.
Hey, thank you, Dave. I'm sure a lot of Dennis, Kellys, and Mr. Gohs in the audience found your presentation very useful. I'm sure they got new insights from all your illustrations. I also feel that your presentation is a clear indication that our associates at Orangetee are not just purely salespeople who does open house or show flat presentations. We are very professional property portfolio planners who understand that there's no one size fits all solution for buyers. We actually can customize and really help them plan out their property plans and expand their wealth. That's our ultimate agenda. So for all listeners listening in, this is just some examples that Dave has given to you today, but I'm sure all our salespeople in Orangetee are more than qualified to help you with your property journey. So please do feel free to contact any of your Orangetee agents who have invited you today. The next is we're going to move on to the Q&A session, and I'd just like to quickly remind all our listeners, if you have any questions pertaining to Dave's presentation or any other queries about the property market, you have to click on the Q&A option at the bottom of the screen and type in your questions. We have a group of panelists who are also experts in the business who will help answer the questions, or I will take some of the questions directly to Dave. I see some questions coming in. Maybe Dave, I will start off with this question from one of the listeners. I'm sure you've heard this before. It's about buying HDB. I know you gave a very good examples about selling HDB and all the options available, but for someone who is just starting their journey into the property industry, who's possibly not married. Okay, this is for all the singles out there. So should they? The age-old question is: should I buy HDB first, which is the very conventional way to grow your wealth, or should you go the private property market way? So I'm sure you've heard this before.
Yes.
Especially for those who are not married, because you have to wait until 35 years old to buy HDB. So should I wait, get all the incentives from the government, or should I just enter the private property market? So what is your take on this question?
Okay, how do I usually advise my clients who have yet to reach 35 or they are even thinking about buying HDB resale already? So if they are buying a resale flat, as illustrated just now, what are the chances of the price appreciation if you are buying a resale flat? All right. So that is, of course, one big factor that the younger generation must look into. So if you are in your late 20s and if you can afford a private property, why should you spend 7 years of your time and lose these 7 years when you can actually buy and sell for 2 times already? Because the SSD clearly is 3 years now, so no longer 4 years. So whatever, there's no one size fits all, like you said as well.
Yep.
But to me, time is money. You can miss opportunities, but remember one thing, as a human being, we cannot turn back time. We cannot reverse our age. So to me, that is very important.
Right. Thank you, Dave. I think ultimately, time is money, and when you go into the HDB direction, I think you're a bit limited because you have that MOP period of 5 years. So it's whether you want to be a bit more bullish and not play the waiting game for that 5 years and go through the private property direction, which has a lot more potential for making your profits. Okay, there are quite a few questions. I'm just reading the questions now. Okay, this is interesting. What's your advice if I'm already holding 2 properties and want to buy another property? What is the best approach in order to save additional amount involved?
Okay, so I think I have shared with you a case study of Mr. Goh. So if you look at Mr. Goh, he actually holds his property for 10 years. So I don't know, whoever asked this question, I don't know how long have you hold your property. But it is very important for you to check the price trend in your property that you are owning currently, right? Is the price depreciating, or is it really stagnant to a point where there is no return? And if you keep your private property, your current portfolio, CPF accrued interest would have continued to grow. And when you decide to sell, the lesser cash you would have cash out. So if I'm given this choice, I would assess both properties and see which one that I can hold further, right? And the other one that if I see any price movement like, prices start to depreciate or stagnant already, I think it will be a good time to liquidate off the one that is not really appreciating anymore, and then go for a new purchase. All right, that is my take on it, Ramesh.
What if money isn't an issue? I just want a third property.
If money is not an issue, probably you wouldn't ask me this question, right?
No, but would you still ask them to buy the third property despite the ABSD they have to pay?
I will.
So between selling one of the properties and buying a new one, and just keeping your portfolio within 2 properties and buying an additional one, which is the 2 options? Between the 2 options, which one will you choose?
I would still actually advise my clients to buy a third one, because if money is not an issue, just remember, whatever ABSD that you're going to pay, you would have recovered if you rent the unit out for 4 or 5 years. Right? There are many people out there who wants to pay ABSD, but they can't. Right? There are people, for example, if today HDB owner who actually in their 3rd year of MOP, they haven't even reached the 5 years MOP, they are in their 3rd year. And unfortunately, they heard my talk today, and they really wish to upgrade to a property now. But they still need to wait 2 more years. They are willing to pay ABSD. Can this group of people pay ABSD instead? They can't. Right? So they are still going to lose 2 years of their time. So that's my take also. So if you think you can really afford, I would say private property in terms of where to park your money. I think private property is a place where has demonstrated over the years, it's a good place to put your money is, because it's something that is tangible and not something that is intangible. And over time, price will appreciate, as we all know from historical charts and research.
Thank you, Dave. I hope the listener who asked that question, I hope that answers your question. We have another question, another anonymous attendee. What is your advice if you're 55 years old? I think like similar to Mr. Goh, right? I can't remember Mr. Goh's age.
Yeah, 54.
All right. Is it still good to buy a new private property? Because I guess that's the issue of the loan, and so I think that's the concern. Your loan amount, the period is a bit limited. So older investors, what is your advice to them?
For people who are already above 55, you really have to go through your options. You really have to sit down and do the calculation, because first you have to meet your basic retirement sum. So that's the bare minimum that we all have to reach. And of course, once you reach that, you have to have a full retirement sum as well as an enhanced retirement sum. If you can fulfill your CPF enhanced retirement sum, I feel it will be good that you can cash out from your property, and then of course you can see which option you want to go for, okay? And then at the same time, pay more using cash from your cash rather than your CPF. The reason is very simple. When you pay cash, there's no compounded CPF accrued interest. Okay, so for my client's case, after liquidating, and when he reached 55, okay, he set aside all his retirement sum in his account. The rest he cash out. So for his next property purchase, actually he dumped in more cash rather than use CPF.
Right. Thanks,
Yeah.
Dave. A new question from Stephanie. Interesting example. I'm holding onto a condo which is about 35 years old. I believe it's probably a leasehold apartment that she's referring to. PSF has been very stable for the last few years. What is your advice to grow my wealth? So I think the word stable should be actually stagnant if it's not growing. So I think what do you have to say for Stephanie's situation?
Hi Steph. Actually, for your case, if it's me, if you hold for about 35 years old, what I would do is I probably would check whether are there any en bloc potentials. And if there are, first, there are many things to check. And if your condo previously has any intention of calling for a collective sale, my advice would be you should hold it. Yeah, that's what I'll say to my client. And if you really need to cash out from your property, make sure that when you sell your current property, you still make a return of equity, which is the cash after selling, and make sure that after you sell your 35 years old property, your CPF amount that is supposed to return back to your CPF account is still there. If it fulfills two criteria, I would strongly advise you can take either option and go for another newer one. Either to wait for a collective sale, because as we know, land are limited in Singapore. And of course, we see supplies now, and in our past webinars, we actually talk about supply is going to thin up in the next few years' time. And developers may go out for another en bloc cycle soon. In maybe 2023 onwards, I'm not sure. I wouldn't speculate that, but you have a choice to make.
Right, Steph, I hope that answers your question. Clarice is requesting for a quick recap on the loss as a result of repaying accrued interest to CPF.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Clarice, so if you can hear and see me, I will be doing some simple illustration. So for example, if you purchase at 300,000 your CPF, using your CPF, you bought your HDB for 300,000, and eventually when you try to sell in 20 years time or 35 years time, you make a loss of negative sale of 35,000 to 60,000. Okay, when you lose that, you need not top up the negative back to your CPF account. But however, CPF loss is also your loss, because that is supposed to be the 2.5% accrued interest that you should earn if you leave the CPF accrued interest untouched, CPF funds untouched in your current CPF account, right? So that's a simple illustration and a simple explanation. Yeah, our salesperson will be more than qualified to advise you on that. No issue. All of our OTT agents, in fact, are very well versed in this. Right.
Right. That was Clarice. So thank you, Clarice, for your question. I'm sure if you need more information, you can approach one of our HDB agents. They'll do the calculation for you to really work out the sums for you. Many more very specific questions coming up with very different scenarios. I think these questions I'm going to leave to our panelists to answer. I just thought I'll touch on the. You did talk about EC and new condo sale purchases during your presentation, Dave. But so just to summarize, if a buyer had to choose between EC, resale, and new condo, is there a preference? I know ultimately it's depending on the individual scenario, but I mean your personal feel. What do you think in the current market people should be focusing on? Should it be EC? Should it be resale condo, or should it be new sale? For upgraders, I think these are three key options. So your current feel more on the current market.
Okay.
Where do you think the trend is going to?
If I want to if I were to look at the trend now, I would definitely go for private, because during circuit breaker, a total of more than 500 units are transacted.
And when you say private, you're talking about private new sale, new launches.
Yes, private new sale. Yes.
Right.
And because the reason is pretty simple, developer, due to this current pandemic, they have no choice, right? But to not increase their price first. And it gives buyers an opportunity to enter the market at the fair ground with everyone else. So imagine you buying a development where prices are already increased. You are not standing on fair ground compared to your fellow purchaser within the same development, right? And of course, I'm not stopping people from buying EC or even resale. Today, if I were to pick a resale, I would probably pick a younger resale. I will pick probably a younger resale unit to purchase, because there are still rooms for capital appreciation, rather than picking an older development, which is in the 20 years old unit. And if I buy in, what are the chances of my unit capital appreciation? You get what I mean, right? So I urge you, look at all the top projects transacted during circuit breaker. All our OTT agents have a simple EDM to send to you. What are the top selling projects during circuit breaker? If so many buyers choose to put their faith in this project during circuit breaker without even viewing show flats, I'm sure these 500 buyers can't be stupid or don't have any intellectual to really make a good decision, right? So I would urge you, please also connect with our agents. It's very important to know which are the top selling projects, north, south, east, west in Singapore to go for. And yeah, that's my advice for people out there today. Yeah.
That number is quite staggering. I mean, 500 people bought online without viewing the actual sales galleries. I think that's something we have never experienced before. It shows how strong our fundamentals are. Yes. That our buyers can actually just do a virtual viewing. I never thought it would happen, but it actually proved all of us wrong during the circuit breaker. It was
even me myself.
So listeners, yeah, you have the answer for that. Between the three options, I think clearly right now the trend, the front runner is still the private new sale launches, because you have so many choices to choose from. It's sort of a buyer's market where the prices are really competitive as well. So please do check with your Orangetee agents on what are the available options that suits your financial situation. I think we've almost all the questions answered. I see one last question that I thought it's a very practical problem I think most buyers are facing now. Is I have a HDB flat. I want to buy a $2 million property in, let's say, Park Clementi's. So would you advise me to, sell my HDB first, then rent a place, then move in? Or do you want me, should I pay ABSD? They're actually asking whether you have to pay ABSD. The answer is, if you haven't sold the first property, obviously you need to pay ABSD. So how do you advise? This is a very common problem. I think even any home buyers will have that problem. If they don't have
sell first, rent, and wait for keys collection, right?
Yeah. Is that the best option?
I think yes.
But rental, Dave, people like me, I mean, I'm speaking for myself. I'm very conservative. I feel like when I'm renting an apartment, right, I'm throwing money out the window. So do you still think from your analysis, if I rent and I buy new property, I still make money?
I strongly believe so, Ramesh. Today, if you have you own a HDB flat, say you reach 8 years MOP or maybe 5 years, so you decide to not rent and keep saving. And at the same time, as I mentioned, HDB prices are declining quietly without most owners knowing until the point that you want to sell. So imagine waiting for another 2 or 3 years. Let's say if your property depreciates by another 30 to 40,000, isn't it equivalent to you renting your own unit to stay for the next 3 years, 4 years, right? So basically you are paying rental to yourself. And for most of you out there, some of you may say, oh yeah, I have a HDB, just MOP 500,000, 600,000. The value now, when I bought is 300,000, now I can sell 550,000. Yes, I ask you another question. If today you don't take action to sell your HDB, you claim that you have, your value go up to 550,000, you are potentially making 250,000. If you don't sell your property, is the 250,000 real money in your bank or just your illusion? It's just something that tells you from the back of your mind that, oh yeah, my house is worth 500,000. Every day you go back home, you step on your tiles, you go to your kitchen, you go to your toilet and you tell yourself, my house is worth 550,000. But you don't sell it. If you don't sell it, you can't touch the 250,000. It's not real money. What if you sell it? You have the real money, 250,000. Use the 250,000, go for a rental unit. Keep some money as 5% down payment. Because you start to feel the real money is in your bank account, you can touch it. And that to me is money. Right? So I hope I answered that, Ramesh.
Thank you, Dave. I guess ultimately there's so many different solutions.
Yes, too many. Too many scenarios, yes.
So I believe a lot of listeners have a lot of misconceptions. So you have dispelled a lot of misconception, a lot of myth today. I think it's been a very engaging session. I do webinars every Sunday, but I think today was one of the most practical where you just go straight into the illustrations, which I totally love. I think all of us can relate to all these illustrations because it really can speaks to our current situation. We can relate more directly, and it's more numbers that matter, right? So I hope our listeners today that found Dave's presentation as useful as I did. Thank you, Dave, for all your time. I'm sure you put a lot of hours into this presentation. It was a pleasure having you. A gentle reminder for all our listeners, if you'd like to obtain a copy of the presentation report, feel free to approach your representing Orangetee and Thai agent for a copy. And be sure to tune in to another Orangetee and Thai Consumer Empowerment webinar. I'm not sure it's next Sunday. I think we're going to do it every fortnight. So please look out for our announcements. And I think that brings us to the end of today's session. End off with a big thank you again to Dave and all our expert panelists for helping us answer the questions. We're just going to keep the session open for another 5 minutes. If you have any sudden last-minute question to ask, our panelists will help you answer the questions. Stay safe. Have a very good Sunday evening. Don't forget to wear your mask when you're going out. And I hope to see you again soon. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Stay safe, everyone.